What began as a racist tweet has become a rallying cry for supporters of U.S. President Donald Trump. At a campaign event in North Carolina, he repeated his attack on several Democratic congresswomen. Some in the crowd started chanting, "Send her back." Now, earlier this week, Trump had tweeted that the representatives should go back to their countries despite them being U.S. citizens. Democrats condemned his racist comments, but Republicans have thrown their support behind the president. And here is part of his speech in which he goes after the 4 minority lawmakers.
And tonight I have a suggestion for the hate-filled extremists who are constantly trying to tear our country down. They never have anything good to say. That's why I say, hey, if they don't like it, let them leave. Let them leave. Let them leave. They're always telling us how to run it, how to do this, how to do. You know what? If they don't love it, tell them to leave it.
Let's get more on those comments at that rally. We have here in the studio DW's Amian Esef, and we're really seeing this defiant attack by the U.S. president on these Democratic congresswomen, all of them U.S. citizens, we have to reiterate. What's going on here?
I think it's been shocking for people to see a U.S. president telling American citizens to leave the country. That is definitely a first here. But the ideology behind that is nothing new. I mean, even I, growing up in the U.S. with a Lebanese last name, got told to leave the country if I didn't like it. So I think that has been present, and he's picking up on that. He's using that as a rallying cry. On the one hand, people are saying it's racist because he's attacking people of color here, women, young congresswomen with migration backgrounds, some of them, but not all of them. Don't forget that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who he singled out, has a background from Puerto Rico, which is part of the United States. So on the one hand, it's been called racist. On the other hand, it's very political. These women are some of the most vocal opponents of his doctrine. And so he sees them as a threat, I believe, and is going after them because of that.
One has to think about the upcoming presidential race, of course, and you know, perhaps to understand a bit of his strategy. Looking back at the last presidential race, one of his mantras that he would get the crowd to chant was also "lock her up, lock her up." He was referring to, of course, Hillary Clinton in that case. Do you see a connection here?
There's a very explicit connection here. I think also the crowd sees the connection. They're playing with that. The "lock her up" chant was still a major chant at his rallies until a few weeks ago even. He had a rally in June where they chanted "lock her up" about a presidential candidate from 2016. So it's very much geared toward the election. He likes these little sound bites, but there's something a little bit more sinister about telling a citizen to leave the country.
Okay. Amian, I want to get your reaction also to another part of his speech because he talks a lot about migrants as well, reaffirming his promise to deport millions of undocumented migrants. It has left many families living in fear of being swept up, separated by raids by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, that's ICE, of course. DW's Helena Humphrey reports on that, and then I'll get your reaction thereafter.
Like most parents, Rosa Gutierrez Lopez couldn't imagine being forced to leave her children. But as an undocumented immigrant, her greatest fear is a realistic one. Rosa fled violence in El Salvador 13 years ago. Now she's facing deportation. Her 3 children were born in the US. Her youngest son, John, has Down syndrome, and she's worried he wouldn't receive the same care in El Salvador. And so for the past 8 months, she's been seeking sanctuary here at Cedar Lane Unitarian Universalist Church near Washington, D.C., living apart from her children during the week so they can still attend their school.
It was hard telling my kids that I had to seek refuge in a church. I couldn't go back to my country and leave them here, and I also couldn't take them because I would be putting them in danger. They could be killed. Criminal gangs there recruit children from the age of 10, and if they refuse, they kill them.
Rosa's deportation was ordered after she missed an early immigration hearing. When ICE agents tracked her down, they fitted her with a monitoring bracelet and ordered her to leave the country.
A friend asked me what's going on. I had to tell her I was coming to say goodbye. I had to put my children in another school. I had to tell her that I was being deported.
Es duro para mí.
It was hard for me.
Necesito transferir a mis hijos a otra escuela.
They want to deport me because I missed a court session. That doesn't make us criminals.
Una fecha de corte. Y eso no los hace ser criminales.
Reverend Abby Jaramanchi hopes that ICE agents will avoid entering places of worship. The church is now one of 50 religious communities offering sanctuary.
We decided to become a physical sanctuary congregation driven by the guiding principles of our faith. And in these times where we see the current administration engaging in policies and actions that threaten the safety and also the humanity of people.
The church has also started an information campaign, preparing undocumented immigrants for deportation raids and how to avoid arrest, namely by refusing to open the door. For Rosa and many people like her, the threat of deportation raids has confined them to living their lives in the shadows of society. Everyday activities like buying groceries or seeking medical care come with a sense of fear. Now, President Trump says that ICE is set to remove, quote, millions of illegal aliens from the country. The reality is closer to around 2,000 people without papers. And Democratic lawmakers say that these kinds of statements are a tactic to intimidate communities just like this one.
Let us once again
But the community is not backing down, holding vigils to let Rosa know that they will protect her, even if the Trump administration is taking a different stance.
So we see demonstrated there, I mean, that fear of being raided by ICE, the Customs Enforcement Agency and Immigration Enforcement Agency. Tell us a little bit more about these raids that are going on.
Well, Trump had announced that there was going to be massive raids starting on Sunday. He built this up, which caused a lot of fear in the community of immigrants in the United States. I think that was probably part of the goal, was to create this sense that America is no longer welcome to people who immigrate illegally or even legally in some cases. But actually, activists who had prepared for these raids to show immigrants their rights, to teach them how to deal with a raid that could violate their rights, they were a little bit surprised that there were so few, actually. And what you've noticed is that Donald Trump is embracing this idea of the deporter-in-chief, but actually deportations haven't significantly increased. They haven't moved anywhere since Obama was president. There was a decrease after Bush left office, but Obama was known as deporter-in-chief, and he was always trying to shed that, which is something that was part of his legacy, that there was a lot of deportations under his, when he was president. And Trump is trying to embrace that, but with mixed results. I mean, you can see that it comes off a little bit as a lot of talk and no action.
Okay, so the rhetoric not matching that action. DW's Ami and Esif on this story. Thank you.